اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Shaddad ibn Aws radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The intelligent person is he who takes stock of himself and does deeds for what lies after death. An unintelligent person is he who follows the desires of his soul and still has hopes in Allah Jalla Jalaluhu that Allah Jalla Jalaluhu will forgive him." Mentioned by Tirmidhi. Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates, "I went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a group of 10 people. A person from the Ansar stood up and said, 'O Prophet of Allah, who is the most intelligent and vigilant person?' He replied, 'The one who remembers death the most, and the one who prepares for death the most before the arrival of death. Such people are the intelligent ones. It is they who acquired the dignity of this world and the honor of the hereafter." Mentioned by Tabarani. Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that on one occasion the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam drew a square. He then drew a line across the center of the square, which came out of the square. He then drew small lines within the square along the center line. He then said, "The center line represents man, and the four sides of the square represents his life, which encompasses him. The line that goes beyond the square represents his hopes. For example, his hopes and desires are more than his actual lifespan. The small lines inside represents illnesses and other similar afflictions. If one of these small lines misses him, the next one will catch him. If the next one misses him, the next one will catch him." Mentioned by Bukhari. Mahmud ibn al-Abid radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "There are two things which man dislikes. Number one, he dislikes death, whereas death is better than trials and tribulations. In other words, when a person dies, he is saved from trials and tribulations which could harm his religious life. Number two, he dislikes paucity of wealth, whereas paucity of wealth would entail a smaller account of deeds in the hereafter." Mentioned by Ahmad. Abu Salama radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates, "I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, whoever meets Allah Jalla Jalaluhu while testifying that there is none worthy of worship except Allah and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Messenger of Allah, believes in the resurrection and the accounting of deeds, shall enter paradise." Mentioned by Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. Darda radiallahu anha narrates, "I said to Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu, why do you not seek wealth like other people do for the hospitality of their guest?" He replied, "I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, there is a difficult obstacle ahead of you. Those who have a heavy burden will not be able to cross it. I therefore wish to remain light for that obstacle." Mentioned by Bayhaqi. Hani Rahimahullah, the freed slave of Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates, when Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to stand by a grave, he would cry to such an extent that he would make his beard wet with his tears. He was asked, "How is that when paradise and hell are mentioned, you do not cry, yet you cry on seeing the grave?" He replied, "The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the grave is the first stage from among the many stages of the hereafter. The one who escapes from this stage, the stages that follow will be easier. If he does not escape from this stage, the stages that follow will be more difficult." The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said, "I have not witnessed any scene that is more terrifying than the grave." Mentioned by Tirmidhi. Usman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam completed the burial of the deceased, he would stand at his grave and say to us, "Seek forgiveness for your brother and ask for steadfastness for him because he is now being questioned." Mentioned by Abu Dawud. Abu Sa'id radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered the masjid for salah and saw that some people's teeth were flashing due to laughing. He said, "If you were to remember in abundance the destroyer of all pleasures, that it would keep you occupied from the laughter which I am seeing You should therefore remember in abundance the destroyer of all pleasures, that there is not a day that passes without the grave saying, I am the abode of exile, I am the abode of solitude, I am the abode of soil, I am the abode of insects. When a believer is buried, the grave says to him, you are most welcome, you were the most beloved to me of those walking on my back, on the surface of the earth. Now that you have come to me and been placed under my control, you will see how I will treat you. The grave will then expand for the person for as far as his eyes can see, and a door of paradise will be opened to him. When a sinful person or unbeliever is buried, the grave says to him, you are most unwelcome and unwanted. You were the most abhorred to me of those walking on my back. Now that you have come to me and been placed under my control, you will see how I will treat you. The grave will then constrict itself upon the person to such an extent that his ribs interlock into each other. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ demonstrated with his hands by interlocking the fingers of one hand into the other hand. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu will then assign 70 serpents to him if just a single one of them were to emit its venom onto earth. A single thing will not grow for as long as the world remains in existence. These serpents will continue biting and stinging him till he is summoned for the accounting of deeds. On the day of resurrection, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, the grave is one of the orchards of paradise or one of the pits of the hellfire. Mentioned by Tirmidhi. Al-Barra ibn Azib radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates, we went out with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam for the funeral of an Ansari man. We reached the grave which was not dug as yet. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam sat down waiting for the grave to be prepared, and we all sat around him. We sat so still that it was as though birds were sitting on our heads. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had a stick in his hand with which he was digging the ground. As is the habit of some people when they are deep in thought, he then raised his head and said 2 or 3 times, seek refuge in Allah Jalla Jalaluhu from the punishment of the grave. He then said, 2 angels come to the deceased, they make him sit up and then ask him, who is your sustainer? He replies, my sustainer is Allah. They ask, what is your religion? He replies, my religion is Islam. They ask, what is the person who was sent to you? He replies, he is the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They ask, how do you know this? He replies, I read the book of Allah, and so I believed in him and accepted him to be true. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when a believer replies correctly to the above questions, an announcement is made from the heavens, my servant spoke the truth, lay out for him a bed of paradise, make him wear the garments of paradise, and open for him a door to paradise. Consequently, it is opened, and the wholesome and fragrant breeze of paradise comes to him, and his grave is expanded as far as his eyes can see. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then related the condition in which an unbeliever will die. He said, after he passes away, his soul is returned to him. 2 angels come to him and cause him to sit up. They then ask him, who is your sustainer? He replied, oh, how sorrowful, I do not know. They ask, what is your religion? He replies, oh, how sorrowful, I do not know. They ask, what is this person who was sent to you? He replies, oh, how sorrowful, I do not know. An announcement is made from the heavens, he is a liar, lay out for him a bed of the hellfire, make him wear garments of the hellfire, and open for him a door to the hellfire. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the heat and scorching winds of the hellfire come to him, his grave is constricted upon him to such an extent that his ribs interlock into each other. Mentioned by Abu Dawud. Note, the angels of the heavens saying that the unbeliever is a liar means that when the angels questioned him and he said that he does not know, he was actually lying in this regard. In reality, it does not mean that he does not know, but he was rejecting the oneness of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, the religion of Islam, and the messengership of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to make amal upon whatever we have listened to, and may He give us the tawfiq to send this to others, inshallah. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayh.